started as blatant shoplifting ended with assault, and it's all caught on this surveillance video. Police say these two men walked into this mobile mart with a mission to steal whatever they could fit in their bags.
Another sad shoplifting incident here in New York City, but this one's different. Because while places like Macy's now have so much security every item is chained to the store itself, that's not the case at your local convenience stores and gas stations, which makes them the perfect target for thieves who steal for a living and aren't exactly nice about it.
New at 11, a pair of suspected robbers caught after a bodega owner trapped them inside with metal doors. The only problem, 2 employees were stuck with the suspects while he ran to get help.
This woman seen on surveillance video getting mad because her EBT card is not working. Her boyfriend comes in, confronting Alba behind the register.
United Bodegas of America installing panic button systems in 4 bodegas. The launch follows a string of violence at bodegas in just the last week.
They pulled me by the shirt and put the gun to me.
The clerk tried to lock the doors and call police. He's seen shoplifting before, but he never thought his life would be in danger just by doing his job.
The family guys, always at the store working, kind to everybody.
Over the past week alone, a clerk here in the Bronx was attacked with a sledgehammer.
Just one day before that attack, medics rushed a bodega clerk and mom of 3 to the hospital after refusing to give store credit to a stranger.
It is unacceptable that we have to live in fear.
Crime is now so bad that workers in our bodegas and gas stations are demanding panic buttons. But what nobody's talking about is that articles like this perfectly explain why we now have a shoplifting problem targeting convenience stores. Because the very crooks these panic buttons are for will never go to jail. Instead, they get released as long as they steal under $1,000 worth of stuff. And they now go into stores feeling so emboldened and entitled to what's on the shelf that they'll attack anyone who tries to stop them. But here's why we now have a theft problem targeting these places. Crime in this city has been so bad for so long that your high-end retailers like Macy's are now locking everything up physically with chains and alarms that hold things to the store so they can't be stolen. If you go to a CVS, it's got wall-to-wall plexiglass restricting access to pretty much every item on the shelf. And although intense security does slow down thieves, it also forces them to look for easier targets. And you know who doesn't have the thousands of dollars needed for that type of security? These places, which used to be found on the corner of every street in town, at every gas station, and even in subway terminals. But since these are now the easiest places in town to steal from, thieves are preying upon them constantly, shutting down many of these family-run independent businesses forever. And that brings us to the real reason why we now have a crime wave targeting these places. It's not that the thieves don't want to steal from Macy's, they still do, but the problem is New York has allowed a $4.4 billion shoplifting economy to flourish, all under the umbrella of criminal justice reform. And since we don't jail our criminals anymore, this has led to the rise of full-time professional shoplifters who aren't stealing to feed their families. Nope, instead they're part of well-oiled theft operations which sell millions of stolen items online and even in the same neighborhoods where there are other stores that they're stealing from. And since many of our small businesses can't do anything about this crime wave, they've got no choice but to just sit back and let it happen. And once the thieves find a place that they can steal from, they won't stop until it closes permanently. So here we have your typical gas station convenience store. It's a mobile mart just like the one that was most recently raided. But since gas isn't really a high margin business, these places need to sell other stuff, snacks, hot dogs, hamburgers, in order to survive. But sadly, criminals have realized that these places are run by 1 or 2 people. They're basically defenseless, especially late in the evening, and that's made them the new targets in this city of shoplifters.
What started as blatant shoplifting ended with assault, and it's all caught on this surveillance video. Police say these 2 men walked into this mobile mart to steal whatever they could fit in their bags. The clerk noticed what was going on, but he was outnumbered.
So sadly, what you have here is completely normal behavior for criminals. They came into the store ready to steal whatever they could get their hands on. They didn't even care what it was, and they came in as a team of 2. So much for this being a victimless crime. The clerk saw what was going on and realized it could be devastating for the store. And obviously, watching the place you work at get looted is very disheartening, which is why he decided to intervene. After all, if these crooks steal enough stuff, that could cost so much money the store might have to close. Which is odd, because we keep hearing hearing from criminal sympathizers in this city that, oh, these are just people stealing to take care of themselves and nobody's really getting hurt because some of these places have insurance. They don't. And what if the place closes? You'll now have victims of that store closure in the unemployment line. Meanwhile, the real criminals escape with all the money and continue their lives of crime. And sadly, this never would have made the news if the whole thing hadn't been caught on store security cameras. So here you have one of the thieves, and they entered the store as a team of two. One of the individuals that you can't see is at the register right now asking the clerk to turn around and give him products that are behind the register. And while that happens, this guy is filling up his backpack with as many energy drinks as he can. And once his backpack is full of monsters, he tries to leave the store. And that's a name brand beverage, and he's just looting all of it from the refrigerator. This is like the most aggravating thing to possibly watch and then hear defended by those who say that these people aren't really doing anything wrong. Why is he stealing name brand beverages? Well, because those can be resold at other delis, other bodegas, other distributors, or even online for a high price. And if this criminal is really trying to feed himself and his young children, why is he not walking around the store, you know, steal a couple of things to eat, a couple of things to drink, maybe an apple or something like that? No, this is somebody who's stealing to resell those items. And even though some people might think that the idea of reselling stolen food is absolutely ridiculous, this is a big city. There's a lot of stores here. And recently, one supermarket chain started putting barcodes on their ice cream so that they could find it after it was stolen. And what's crazy is they would go down the street from their grocery store to a local bodega, they would open the freezer, they would look at the ice cream and, hey, that's our barcode. Those were stolen products. And that's why now when you go into a lot of these places, you see the ice cream locked up with a chain lock. But what about the idea that these places all have insurance and that this truly is a victimless crime because the insurance just pays you back? Well, as you're about to see, that can only be the opinion of someone who is ignorant of how insurance companies operate and has probably never filed a claim for anything.
President, how are you? How are you? Nice to meet you. God bless you, man. You've been robbed a lot. 1 month ago, they already want to rob the keys. So what do you do? I mean, you just... I have no choice. I gotta keep up my store. That's the insanity. Is it almost a way of doing business? You get robbed? It's starting to. Can you get a license for that? Yeah, maybe we will apply if they allow that. They're thinking of a gun.
So in this video, you have a conversation that mentions two very frightening things about these stores. First, the people inside the store, they say they don't have any insurance. And if insurance is so great, why do you think it is that they're not carrying it? Well, first, in a city where people can steal as much as they want, as long as it's under $1,000 and never go to jail, insurance rates are pretty high. Also, insurance doesn't help you run your business. If all of your ice cream gets stolen, they're not going to give you the $9.99 that Ben & Jerry's sells for at 7-Eleven. No, instead they're going to give you the $2.99 or $1.99 that you paid for those pints of ice cream to help you replace them. And that means not only is the idea of collecting insurance payouts not a great business plan, these stores also have to pay a deductible, which is likely a few $1,000s. And even if a store owner is able to get insurance for their shop, what do you think's going to happen if they start filing claims? Insurance companies are not in the business of losing money insuring risky companies. They're going to raise the rates. Maybe you can get a policy for a year, but what happens next year after you file 10 claims because you get looted every couple of weeks? You're going to get dropped, you're going to lose your coverage, and that's why so many of these little places just don't have it. They can't afford it to begin with. Or in order to get it, they'd have to have so much security, basically turning the place into a CVS with plexiglass everywhere, that would cost thousands of dollars and require extra personnel to operate. There's just no way for these little places to function with an insurance policy that's active all the time to protect against thieves. On top of that, the store owner mentions that they have no way to defend themselves inside the store if crime occurs. He says he's thinking about it, but then the lawyer for one of the other bodega workers who was recently attacked in the city speaks up and says, hey, if you defend yourself inside one of these stores, the law is going to come down on you, not the shoplifter. The person that he was defending ended up getting sent to Rikers Island and was there for about a week before charges were dropped due to public outrage. Thank God they had a camera inside that store. Yet at the exact same time, the criminals who are robbing these places, they're never prosecuted or arrested for anything. They've got the full defense of the law behind their backs. The only people getting sent to jail when there is a crime are the law-abiding. The criminals walk the streets for free, and what's worse is that when a criminal does get arrested and does appear before a judge, it's very common for the DA to downgrade the charges against that person so that they're just misdemeanors and they never get sent to jail. It's quite common for firearms charges, which have a 3.5-year minimum, to get dropped altogether. But it gets even worse because 2 months ago, New York State passed a law that made it a felony to become violent and to put your hands on a store employee. Yet here we are with all of these videos on the internet of shopkeepers getting assaulted while doing their jobs. And that's got people asking, where are the felony charges? Why aren't these people in jail? How are they still getting away with this? And critics say this pro-crime attitude is why we are where we are today. day with a crime wave that affects the smallest and most defenseless stores in our entire city. There's nothing these places can do, and it's only gonna get worse.
Launching a pilot program.
The advocacy group installing panic button systems in 4 bodegas in areas considered to be crime hotspots. These panic buttons are designed to notify NYPD and neighboring stores of danger in real time.
Yeah, call me crazy, but I don't think the idea of panic buttons is going to do a whole lot to stop criminals that come into these places with the intention to take whatever they want and the intention to take things steps further if need be if someone tries to stop them. Now, apparently, the way these are supposed to work is that when a criminal walks into one of these places and starts stealing, they press the button. The button then sends out a signal to other stores in the area as well as the police, letting them know that a crime is in progress. This gives other stores the opportunity to lock their doors, get ready, which should help them take actions in order to stay open themselves and not end up getting looted and raided. But it's also going to save the people inside the store valuable time because they don't have to take out a cell phone and call the police, which is a visible thing that the criminals can see you doing. Instead, they just press this little button and it tells the police right away what's going on and lets them know to come by. If only we had enough police in this city to guarantee a rapid response every time these panic buttons get pressed, which is probably going to be quite often. And let's be honest, how afraid are these criminals really of the police? They know that after they get arrested, they're going to get released. Nothing's going to happen to them. What kind of deterrent is a panic button? Or is everyone all excited about these panic buttons because it will just increase police response times potentially, and that's better than nothing?
These technologies have already saved many lives and prevented incidents from happening and going even further.
When a bodega owner or a clerk is in danger, they press this button, a text, an alarm will go out to numerous people.
The launch follows a...
So I think we're gonna have to go with the idea that this is better than nothing at all, because after all, the sooner the police show up, the sooner they can arrest that criminal so that they can get released and go back out on the street and start committing crime again. Because in a city that seems to want all of its shopkeepers to be totally defenseless when criminals walk in the door, wasting the time of criminals by arresting them quickly is really all we can hope for. And you know something, we often hear about how New York City has an anti-police attitude, but now our store owners being told to rely on the police, the good old police. We're gonna come in and take care of everything, but it also looks like we've got an attitude here that is hostile to the idea of an individual acting heroically in the face of bandits that enter a store. But at the same time, since we know that a lot of these criminals are armed, we don't want vigilantism, we don't want people trying to be heroic, and the real solution to this isn't just gonna be panic buttons, it's also gonna need to be more police. But it looks like the city's probably not gonna end up hiring more police, which was actually revealed by the shoplifting crackdown plan that was announced 2 months ago. And 2 months ago, the governor signed a shoplifting crackdown package, which includes money for stores to go and hire their own security. But the problem is, will these security guards be prosecuted for standing up to shoplifters? Because if they're going to be by aggressive DAs, what's the point of even hiring them and paying them if they're not going to have any meaningful effect on this crime wave? In fact, when you look at this idea of panic buttons being rolled out to a lot of these stores, it makes it look like the city doesn't want anyone relying on anybody other than its police force, which it has already cut funding to and rolled back. But sadly, that's not even the most controversial part about this new panic button plan.
Though the tech could potentially cost taxpayers $3,000 per store per year, Councilmember Oswald Feliz wants to convince his colleagues to invest $15 million into the program.
This panic button will send one clear message that violence in our bodegas will not be tolerated, and that if anybody tries to...
Did you hear that? $15 million a year. That's not the cost of the panic buttons. That's the cost of not locking up the people who commit crime. And all of us, all the taxpayers, everyone's paying for this. Which is ridiculous since the police have already identified the 300 criminals that commit a third of all thefts in this city. And look, any and all retail theft is terrible. It should be zero. There should be no repeat offenders roaming the streets. But if we have repeat offenders and we know who they are, why don't we arrest them so that they can't do it anymore? And people are wondering, would it cost less than $15 million to put 300 criminals in jail next year? And if that were to happen, would those criminals actually learn more of a lesson than they're going to learn if somebody presses a panic button and then they run away? Think about that. Here we are. We're going to pay $15 million for plastic buttons to tell us when criminals commit crime instead of using that money to stop those criminals from committing crime. And if the laws underneath all of these policies don't change, meaning people still get released after they commit crime, what do we expect to happen? This plan, as great as it is just going to result in more arrests potentially. But we have no indication that that those arrests will result in more prosecutions that end up being successful, actually locking people up, because the law says those people can't be locked up. These are misdemeanor crimes. And arresting and releasing people over and over again is going to do nothing to stop our epidemic of shoplifting, which is closing down these small businesses. Eventually, they're all going to be gone. And look at this. The only 2 stores that are closed on this busy street in Manhattan are the places you can steal from. Across the street, you've got 2 restaurants. Can't steal from those. There's a bank. And all of these businesses right here are restaurants. They don't sell anything you can steal and run away with. But the 3 places that were selling physical products all look like this inside now. And do you really think panic buttons are going to stop more of this from continuing? These places should all be open. This is a busy area of town, but they're not, and nobody seems to be doing anything about it. What should New York City do about this shoplifting problem? Should we pass laws that keep people in jail after they do something wrong? Should we hire more police so that when everyone in New York is pressing their panic buttons, there are police available to show up and at least arrest people and waste their time? And what do you think about the district attorney's policies of downgrading charges, very serious charges, when they're committed by somebody who was shoplifting, but then going after the law-abiding when they stand up for themselves, when they defend themselves inside their own stores or on the subway or just out in public when there's some maniac who's trying to do them harm when there are no police around? Let me know what you think about that. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. And if you want to know why I have this Band-Aid right here, it's because I have an incredible grooming routine that takes as little time as possible and sometimes results in accidents. Thank you. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.